Okay, well, let's get started. Hi, everyone. I hope you all had an amazing Tuesday. And to start us off, the State Officer team is so happy to see you all here today. Um, we love seeing the members take initiative and learn more about what Skills USA has to offer. We hope you guys enjoy the webinar and learn something new. Before we begin, can you all scan the QR code on screen? And I'm going to also drop it in the chat in case scanning it doesn't work. Just let me know. Everybody good? Anybody having any issues? I'm going to take that as a no. No issues.
All right, so I guess we're just gonna go ahead and get started. So first, I would like you guys to help me introduce Tyler Chaffin. He's the project manager for student initiatives, here to talk about the process for running for national office. So I'm gonna leave that to him now.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for having me here tonight, and on behalf of the national office, we're super excited to be with Texas High School and really talking about all of the great ways that you can join Skills USA in different student leadership roles. But what I'll be covering is the national officer election process at a high level for you all this evening. Before we begin, just want to make sure that you can see my screen. It says National Officer Election Process. Thumbs up if you can see that. Perfect. Well, then we will just jump right in. So at an overview of our agenda, we'll go over the qualifications to run for national office, as well as what consists of the application. And then upon receive the application, if approved as a candidate schedule. And then we'll have any time for questions around national office. Let's go right through. So at a high level, the role of a national officer is to serve Skills USA at the local, state, and national level to support Skills USA in achieving our organization's mission. You also have to meet the minimum requirements outlined in the bylaws. So if you are a high school freshman, sophomore, or junior, and you're running for your following year, you would read the high school bylaws. And if you're a high school senior that's going to run in the college post-secondary division, you would follow the college post-secondary division bylaw requirements. And then the national office is the National Officer Program is grounded in the growth of 5 essential elements from the framework that we focus on, which is responsibility, communication, teamwork, leadership, and professional development. So have to be ready, eager to grow in those because it's a year of service, really pouring into yourself so that you can pour into the members that you serve. In terms of high school, so if you're running for office and you have 1 year left remaining in the high school division, you have to have active membership at the status of time of election, endorsement from your state association, and whatever rules that Texas High School requires on top of us as a national organization in order to run for a national office. 1 full school year remaining in high school, been selected by your state association as national officer candidate, and adhere to any of the other national officer candidate requirements that are outlined in that year's national officer program guide. Now, let's say you are a high school senior that's going to run in the college post-secondary division. The only thing that's different about these rules is that you would not have 1 year of high school left remaining, but you would be a college post-secondary student and member the following year when you serve as a national officer. One note that want to just roll through that's super important in the qualifications that needs to be completed before applying for national office is that you have to earn and verify that you've earned the Skills USA framework certification. the SkillsUSA CTE Knowledge Certification. And that both of those include completing our e-course and all the associated work with it, passing the end of assessment of those course with an 80% in order to earn the certification. And each of those are about 60 to 90 minutes long for each of those certifications. And then we have the verification of the Career Essentials Advanced or Adult Learner course. This year, we require that you complete and pass at minimum the first 3 units of either the advanced or the adult learner course, including all the work, the unit test, and a minimum score of 80% to advance through each of those units. Even though those are all that are required, we highly suggest that you complete the final 3 units and earn the Career Essentials credential, because if you don't earn it prior to applying, the national office will incorporate that into your year of service, and will be sure that you earn that credential throughout your year of service as a national officer. Now, you might be thinking, Tyler, there's a lot of pre-work that's part of becoming a national officer. We have the Career Essentials coursework, we have the 2 certifications, and want to let you know that there is a Proctor Opportunity in order to make the Career Essentials happen. So located within the National Officer Program Guide that's available on the SkillsUSA website, we have a link that you're able to access each of the certifications as well as Career Essentials at no cost. All you have to do is go through the program guide and select that you would like to apply for these certifications in the Career Essentials coursework at no cost by February 1st. We'll enroll you in all 3. And the Career Essentials coursework will actually have an instructor that is on national staff work with you throughout all of the coursework and serve as your advisor or teacher would in supporting you through your Career Essentials coursework. So we want to be sure to make this process as smooth as possible for candidates and provide all these resources to you in a timely manner before you apply for national office. So you can find more information about that in the National Officer Program Guide. In terms of application, really want to simplify this in 5 steps. Like when you think of any application, even for applying for a job, it can be very overwhelming, very daunting. And you're thinking, oh, I just want to apply. Like if I can get the interview, I can get the job, right? I just need to get through it. Well, we want to make sure to simplify this as much as possible in just a few steps. So step 1, before even applying, you want to ensure that you meet all the national officer candidate requirements from the bylaws. That includes any additional requirements outlined in the program guide. Then you'll want to gather the following documentation: your support letters from those stakeholders such as your state director, your school administrator, chapter advisor, and then just what I mentioned about those additional requirements, verification that you've achieved those courseworks and passed as outlined in the program guide. Then you'll want to gather your following information that's around, if elected, who is responsible, what airport are you traveling from, as well as any other important information that we need from you. And then we have a few essay responses as well on how do you plan to serve the organization, any SkillsUSA honors or awards, elected offices that you've held before, such as being a chapter officer or state officer, and then any school, organization, or community-based activities that you participate in. And then the final step is just submitting some other application forms, acknowledging that you met the minimum requirements, your medical information, and your candidate headshot. Once you submit these are all due by June 1st at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We get to the really fun part, a month-long adventure together as national officer candidates. And so June 1, like I said, those applications are due at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Then by Friday, June 3rd, you'll receive official notice if you're accepted as a candidate, meaning that you've met all of the requirements. And from there, we'll have an orientation on June 6th, going over the whole process of pre-NLSC events and during NLSC events. And so for those of you that don't know what NLSC is, it's our National Leadership and Skills Conference. And that's where the majority of our national officer election process activities happen. So we'll then have our written exam at 2 p.m. Eastern on June 7th. The following day, those written exam results will be released. Any national officer candidate must pass our written exam at a 75% or higher in order to advance throughout the process. So you'll receive that notice on June 8th. June 13th and 14th are our interviews. And so our interviews consist of a panel where we'll evaluate you based off of the essential elements of the National Officer Program. And then that's everything pre-NLSC. We get to NLSC and campaigning happens where national officer candidates get to interact with delegates throughout our Meet the Candidate session, our delegate business sessions, and then our delegates from across the country will vote to elect who they feel should represent SkillsUSA for the next year at the highest level of student leadership. And the announcement of officers will be at NLSC as well. I know that I don't know how much time I went through. I think it might have been like less than 10 minutes. So I threw a lot out in less than 10 minutes. So if you have any questions, feel free to shout them out. If not, my email's on the screen. I'll also drop it in the chat, and feel welcome to email me at any time, and we can correspond or even set up a call on clarifying any questions about running for national office.
I have a few questions. What would you say is the biggest piece of advice you could give to someone that is running for national office?
That is a great question, Leslie. Being prepared is one of the most important pieces, right? There's a lot of preparation that comes way before applying by June 1st. Like you said, like it's stated in the National Officer Program Guide, you have to complete the Career Essentials coursework as well as those other additional certifications that really are not just barriers or hoops to jump through as national officers, but that second piece I would say is that commitment, right? Wanting to invest in yourself and being committed to learning more about yourself and more about who you are as a career-ready individual, so that when you go throughout the process of being a candidate and hopefully elected, then you're able to really commit to then serving all the other members who elected you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any more questions?
Yeah, I actually have one.
Okay.
So what part of running for office was the most rigorous for you?
Yeah, so I work on national staff. I was not a national officer or ran for national office, but I was, in fact, a former SkillsUSA State Officer. And so the experience that I can speak to is of running for state office. And I remember the most challenging piece that was involved that is just staying cool, calm, and collected and remembering my why. That's the most challenging but yet important piece, right? Like why did I want to run? Why am I going to serve the thousands of members in my state association, and what did I want to get out of it for my professional development while serving others, and really remembering the why of SkillsUSA of becoming career ready. And that's all of our goals as individuals. So that to me was the most challenging but useful tip that I gave myself and also received throughout my state officer candidacy.
I have a question. So for the people who do decide to run for office, what would you say is the most rigorous part that needs the most preparation?
I think it really depends on the individual. I think it can be so subjective, right? you're very comfortable with taking exams, then you'll be hopefully good throughout the written exam. But if test taking is a hard skill of yours, right, you're going to want to spend more time for that written exam. And if you're naturally a very outgoing, communicative, extroverted person, our meet the candidate session will just feel very natural. But if sometimes it's a little hard to come out of your shell, then that might be a little more challenging as well when you're meeting hundreds of people in a matter of only a few hours. So I really think it's catered to that person and subjective on what are my areas of growth. That's how I would approach it. What are my areas of growth, and what can I do, knowing the expectations of being a candidate, to really grow in those areas that I need to and excel at? And also, what are the areas that I excel at, and how can I maximize them?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say was the most stressful, and how did you deal with it for both state and national?
Yeah, for when I ran for state office, the most stressful piece to me would, it's a great question. It's been a few years, but when I think about it, I think really preparing my campaign, right? I really wanted to like get my theme correct. I wanted to make sure it communicated like who I was as an individual, and I didn't want it to be too cheesy, and I didn't want it to be too flashy, and I really wanted it to represent everyone who was a delegate. And so really being intentional with how I wanted to outwardly express myself and give a little piece of my campaign to everybody else. But it's also the most fun, right? That you can be creative in that whole entire process.
When you're observing other candidates, what would you say is the most common for stress?
Yeah, I think it goes back to that subjective feeling of really being prepared in what you're able to excel at and what you're not able to, and what are some areas of growth. I think preparedness is the key in running for national office, and it really shows when you're not prepared, even outside of national office, for state office or even local chapter office. Really wanting to show up prepared, because when you're prepared, you're not thinking about, oh, I didn't do this, or I could have done that better, or I could have done this. Showing up at 100% and really just being yourself and being authentic, and having nervous feelings or jitters is completely normal, but everyone will be able to sense a lack of preparedness.
Thank you.
Oh, we have a question in the chat from Marina. What can you tell the people who have hard time expressing or socializing when running for office?
Practice makes perfect. I think when you are going to work with any individual, whether it's one-on-one or you're at a chapter meeting or you're campaigning for yourself, really practicing with different individuals is going to be able to give you that leg up in any conversation, even thinking outwardly of running for national office. Practicing with any of your teammates or your advisor or your family members, right? People who you can trust that will give you honest and thoughtful feedback is what's going to set you up for success in those conversations.
I have a question. How would you describe the growth you've seen in national officer candidates throughout the election process?
Yeah. I've seen it in a couple of different ways. When I was a voting delegate for my state association and voted for national officer candidates, and now on the other side of facilitating this process, it's really this outward expression and authenticity that you're putting forth, and really seeing people own who they are and what they bring to the table and how they can serve others is what's really empowering to see, and how people get more comfortable with that throughout time. And then even after the election process, those who are elected and serve as national officers continue to grow in that outward piece and really represent that the organization to fulfill our mission.
Thank you.
I definitely agree. I know it wasn't a question for me, but I would say that for me, when my officer team and I went to summer leadership, I personally saw how all of them grew. And I think it was such an amazing experience because we weren't there for a long amount of time. We were there for like a week, and I saw how their confidence went up and how they got more comfortable with public speaking. And it was just an amazing process to see. And I think that's the best, in my opinion. I think it's the most rewarding thing to see as well. So are there no other questions?
I'm a freshman. Do you think that it's more appropriate for me to run for district or state officer?
So I feel like
Is
that's
that question for us or for anybody? Sorry, Stephanie.
it's okay.
Donna, do you have a specific person to answer the question, or are you just asking in general?
Oh, just anybody. I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
So with that, I think it's entirely up to you. As a freshman, you do have the opportunity to be a district, state, and national officer. Like for districts, sophomore, not state, junior, national, senior. That's just like how far you want to go. If you want to shoot for the stars, like right now, if you feel like you can do that, then entirely do so. I don't really have much to say. Yeah. It's just like a whole personal like development question that you have to ask yourself.
Okay, thank you.
And see what you want for yourself. Do you want to be a district at the district level, or do you want more responsibility as well as a better opportunity for personal growth at the state level? It's all up to you at the end. But yeah, shoot for stars. I believe in you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I think it goes back to a moment and Zephaniah said, self-reflection. You know what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, and depending on what you want to improve on, I think that goes back to what office you want to run for. Personally, I did district and then I did state, but everybody's path in SkillsUSA is different. Just because I did it my way doesn't mean that your way is wrong. So just have a little self-reflection moment and ask yourself what do you think would best fit you? So if we have no more questions, I want to thank you, Mr. Chaffin, for giving us your time and teaching us more about the election process when running for nationals.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Leslie, and everybody. It was so great to speak with you, and feel free to email me if you have any further questions around the national officer election process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now,
Sorry. For Sredurga, hope that's correct. This will be shared. The recording will be shared on social media, and yeah, on social media.
alrighty, guys. So we're going to be talking about running for state and district now, but to start us off, we want to introduce ourselves to y'all.
All right, everyone. So like Leslie said, we would love to introduce your state officer team. So starting us off, we have Melanie Aguilar, your SkillsUSA Texas State Historian. Her favorite experience while running for office was having the opportunity to interact and answer questions from members during her campaign. Next up, we have Madison Palmer, your SkillsUSA Texas State Parliamentarian. Her most memorable moment when she ran for office her freshman year before COVID was when she ran for her freshman year before COVID and got to see how uplifting each member was after the election. And hello, everyone. My name is Jesus Medina, and I'm your SkillsUSA Texas State reporter. And my favorite experience while running for office had to be campaigning. Not only was I able to interact and speak with my fellow members, but I was also able to highlight something I love and am very passionate about, which is CPR and first aid.
All right, hey guys, I'm Momin Abdulnabi. I'm your SkillsUSA Texas State Treasurer. My most memorable moment for running for office was the interview process, as it required me to be adaptable and very diverse with my answers.
Hello, everyone. My name is Emma Pope, and I'm your SkillsUSA Texas State Secretary. My most memorable experience was the delegate session, especially answering the problematic question, because it was the most challenging for me. I was so anxious to speak on the spot in front of that many people, and it was on Zoom, but it was still very stressful. But I'm so proud of how I was able to think on my feet and how much I've grown in my speaking skills since that running process, because I know if I did it again, I would do so much better than last year.
Hi, everyone. My name is Zephaniah Zuniga, your SkillsUSA Texas State Vice President. And I would say that my favorite part about running for office would have to be preparing and watching my speech be presented at the delegate session last year. Preparing my speech gave me the opportunity to be vulnerable with a group of people in a way that I never have before. And I knew it was honestly going to be the start of something new when it came to my confidence and my speaking skills.
Hello, everyone. My name is Leslie Vasquez, and I'm your SkillsUSA Texas president. My most memorable memory within running for office was when I ran my district year. It was such an exciting moment because it was in person and it was before COVID, and I got to meet the members and form a connection with the members that I would potentially be representing.
All right, so now we're going to turn it over to you guys. If you are open to, we would going to ask you what is your favorite SkillsUSA experience, and if you want to answer, please raise your hand and we will call on you. And if not, we are more than open to choosing somebody.
Megan, she wants to say something. Okay, Lila. Okay, let's start with Megan. I think we saw her first.
So my favorite SkillsUSA experience, I have two. Last year when I qualified for state, I was literally like jumping and screaming in the middle of class. I sounded crazy. And when I found out I had gotten a district officer position, I was also jumping and screaming in the middle of class. So
I'm sure a lot of us can relate to that, especially because of COVID. It's amazing to see how even though we're virtual, we still see that passion and that fire to continue in this organization. Lila, I think you were next.
Like Megan, I have two. My favorite moment is whenever I finally qualified for both district and state, and then I found out I got district office. And then my second is summer leadership, because it was an amazing experience. And I saw my partner grow and I saw fellow officers grow in that short time, and it was amazing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Vanessa?
yes, so my favorite SkillsUSA experience would have to be during my sophomore year when we were coming back from competition. It was the ride back on the bus, which was like new to me because we were all excited, especially my team, because we had just placed and I had just gotten my officer position as well.
That's beautiful. It's funny how, not funny, but it's beautiful to see how everybody has their own experience within SkillsUSA. Anybody else? Yes, Marina, you can put it in a message. She said, my favorite experience is fall leadership, because I was able to experience what SkillsUSA was about. Yeah, and you also get to meet new members within at fall leadership, which is to me that's the best part, meeting a member.
All right, so running for office. We are now going to be start talking about the whole application process for state and district. So if you would, please grab a pencil and paper because it is somewhat of a lot of information and there is some similarities between the two. So it's best to help distinguish those. So now let's go ahead and get started.
All right, so like Zephaniah mentioned, we're going over both state and district. We're going to start with state office. They're pretty similar, but there are some key differences that we'll hit on later. So first, kind of an overview of running for state. We're going to show you how to access the application, explain how the state officers are chosen and looking at the breakdown and percentages of that. Looking over what the application includes and what all different documents you need to gather, looking at the knowledge test, how to prepare for that, how to prepare for your interview, writing a good speech, what a problematic question is. We have a few advice to give on campaigning, and we'll end with a list of important dates that you might just want to take a picture of. Okay, so first, how to access the application. Begin by going to SkillsUSA Texas website at skillsusatexas.org. There's also a picture of it on the screen. So just first of all, go to the website. And then go towards the top right corner and hover your mouse over events and a drop-down menu will appear. If you're running for state office, click on State Leadership and Skills Conference. And then once you get taken to that page, just scroll down. It's closer to the bottom and you'll see 2022-2023 state officer application. You're going to want to download that to your device and you can just begin filling it out.
All right, so now the breakdown percentages of the whole application process. First is the written application, and this is what Emma just showed to y'all guys for how to find in the previous slides. And this is composed of 10% of the whole application selection process. And this assesses the student's ability to prepare written documents and meet deadlines. Once this is done, you guys will have a written test, and this is 20% of the whole application. This narrows down to the top 30 applicants. These questions will cover the SkillsUSA Integration Toolkit, Employability Skills, the SkillsUSA Leadership Handbook, and a tip to study the SkillsUSA Handbook, the Robert Rules of Order, Career Essentials Foundation, SkillsUSA Texas Association Constitution and Bylaws, and the SkillsUSA Texas webpage. Next, once the top 30 are narrowed down, you guys will have the oral interview. This is 30% of the selection process, and this narrows down to the top 15. There will be 3 to 5 questions asked of each of you guys, and you guys will be interviewed by a panel. These are usually alumni, old members, etc. And the same questions will be asked of each of you guys. These questions will cover the qualifications for becoming a state officer as listed in the SkillsUSA Texas bylaws and the SkillsUSA Leadership Handbook. Once the top 15 are narrowed, you guys will have the House of Delegate vote. This is done in Corpus Christi on the first day of the conference, of the state leadership conference. And this is 30% of the, or this is going to be done throughout the conference. And this is 30% of the application selection process. There will be a 2-minute campaign speech, and I'll talk further about the speech later on during the presentation today. With this, there are no props allowed, and you guys will be asked a problematic question. After, you guys will be observed throughout the state conference. This will be composed of 10% of the application process selection, and then we're watching your social behavior, your interaction between candidates and students, and the interactions between candidates and advisors. And guys, remember, don't let this overwhelm you. If you guys get nervous, reach out to your advisor or one of us, and we'll be happy to help.
So now breaking down of the application, when you actually download it, you will be able to see all of these documents. and they consist of the personal data form, the state officer candidate disclaimer, the state officer contract and code of conduct, the internet code of conduct, photography, sound, and video release. Now, the personal data form is where you fill out your personal data. You have your name, your birthday, your address, your email, etc., personal things that they know just for record's sake. Then you have the state officer candidate disclaimer, where you decide if you want to forfeit state and national candidacy, if you decide to run for nationals, or if you just want to run for state. Then you have the state officer contract and code of conduct, where essentially, if you do get elected to become a SkillsUSA officer, you will be representing this organization and you have to be on your best behavior. That's essentially what you're saying. You're going to sign that is what you plan to do because you're representing SkillsUSA on the state level. Then you have the internet code of conduct. And I know in today's day, the internet plays a big role, and sometimes we might get angry and say stuff online that we don't actually mean. And when you sign this code of conduct, you're saying that you're going to behave on the internet, and that goes back to the state officer contract that you are representing SkillsUSA. Then you have the photography, sound, and video release. And this is just saying that you're okay with your pictures and your videos getting released on, let's say, SkillsUSA Instagram or the SkillsUSA website, because you're representing SkillsUSA and your face is going to be around SkillsUSA. And then we have campaigning, and we'll talk more a little bit about that.
All right, so then now we have the important documents. For the important documents, these are going to be turned in with your application. So you need a letter of endorsement from your SkillsUSA advisor, a letter of support for SkillsUSA events from a school administrator, a letter of support for events listed from a CTE director, 2 letters of recommendation from someone other than those that I just listed above, and then you need a personal resume, a current transcript, and this current transcript doesn't have to be official, and a 1 to 2 page personal narrative statement.
Now, after you submit your application, the first thing you are going to do is take a SkillsUSA knowledge test. This is just to ensure that you know what SkillsUSA is and you know what you're going to be representing. This is the first task aside from your application in your journey to become an officer, and you have to complete a timed SkillsUSA knowledge test surrounding information inside the SkillsUSA Leadership Handbook. And if you attended summer leadership, some leadership handbooks were handed out to you, so that's what it is. And the SkillsUSA framework. In order to pass this test, I would make sure to study. If you can't pass the test, you won't move on to the interview, and that's why there's multiple parts to the election process. And your test will most likely be completed before you arrive to your state competition through Schoology. And don't worry, your login for this test will be given to you after you submit your application. So make sure that if you do decide to run for state, you check your email, because that is where it will be given. Up next, we have the interview, and in the interview you're going to get asked questions, and it's just like a get to know you, so we know who you are and like why you're running, and basically it makes it more genuine. You will have a short oral interview given by alumni, current officers, advisors, or SkillsUSA partners. The interview will consist of 3 to 5 questions that you have to answer. And when you have an interview, make sure that you are well groomed and you have your SkillsUSA attire on. That includes your reds. You will also need a resume for this process, so make sure that yours is up to date and presentable. Then we have campaigning, and campaigning was my favorite part of this whole process. Once you have finished your interview, you get to campaign. You get to meet the members, you get to talk to them, you get to create connections. And why is campaigning beneficial? It helps branch out. You get to meet the members. You get to create a connection with the members you will potentially represent. And it makes it genuine. It helps you form a connection with those that you will be representing. Now, when campaigning, you get to put your own twist on your campaign. You can have a theme for your campaign. Personally, when I was running for state office, my campaign was Among Us because that's what was trendy. That's what I was playing all the time. And that's what I made it for. Here you can see that my campaign, and I also have some TikToks, some get to know me, some videos. And Zephaniah's campaign was his personal growth within Skills USA. So it doesn't necessarily have to be cartoony, it can be personal. Similar to Jesus's, his focused on CPR and first aid because he's aspiring to be a registered nurse. So that made him connect to his theme. And then Madison focused on the Skills USA colors, and she had a few TikToks. So your twist with your campaign is completely up to you. You get to make it, you get to personalize it and make it your own.
So now I get to talk to you guys about your speech. Like I said, only the top 15 of the interview selection will present their speech at the delegate session in Corpus Christi. So whatever you guys speak about, it is entirely up to you. Most people usually do have a theme with their speech. And you guys could correlate this to what is your Skills USA story? How have you developed as a person? It's usually best to make it personal because us or members are looking to you. They want to hear why they should vote for you. So who will you guys be speaking in front of now? This will be presented of usually a few hundred of members, alumni, etc., from all over the state of Texas. And remember, this is going to be in person this year. So you guys will have the opportunity to speak in front of hundreds of people. So I know that does sound a little bit daunting, but it is okay. Just like prepare. Prepare is all I can say. But if you ever do decide to do this, good luck.
All right, now for the problematic questions. This is another step to the delegate session. It'll take place like right after your speech. So I know some of y'all might have heard it if you attended the delegate session last year, and others maybe not. But basically, a problematic question is a surprise question designed to be difficult. It's meant to make you think of an answer on your feet. So it'll test your preparedness, Skills USA knowledgeability, credibility, critical thinking skills. You only have 30 seconds to answer. So it may seem very stressful right now, but again, the major thing you can do is prepare. So some tips to help you prepare is to ask someone you know, such as your advisor, your friends, your family, to give you practice problematic questions throughout the day. If you want example problematic questions, you can look them up and there should be some online. Make sure that you're knowledgeable about Skills USA because sometimes the questions will directly involve Skills USA. And if you're running to be a candidate for that organization, you have to show that you know it well. And then try to connect your answer back to the organization or what you would do as an officer so that the delegates, once again, kind of know what you're trying to do. And then practice timing yourself when speaking. Like I said, you only have 30 seconds. So just practice because that time goes by very fast, but also like you need to know what you're going to say kind of. So just practice with timing yourself.
So here are some important dates for the state officer application. I know this seems like a lot of dates to memorize, so you can write them down or you can take a picture of them. And again, once you download the state officer application, all of these dates will be provided for you. So don't think that you have to memorize them or anything. I would say that the most important one as of right now is the deadline to submit your application, and that's March 22nd, 2020, 4 p.m. So make sure to keep that in mind if you are deciding to run for office, and feel free to take a picture if you need it.
Okay, so hi everyone. I hope you're all having a great time. Can I get a thumbs up if you guys have learned something new today? All right, Donna, Shaker, Carolina. All right, that's good to hear. So now we're going to get on with the district process of running for office. Here's a brief overview of what we'll go over. It has similarities to running for state, but it's slightly different. So let's get started. How to access the application. So you'll begin to do this by going to the SkillsUSA Texas website at skillsusatexas.org. Once you arrive to the website, you will hover your mouse over the district tab at the top right corner, and then a drop-down menu of all 13 districts will appear. From there, you're going to want to click on your own designated district. All right, so once you've clicked on your district page, scroll down to the 2022 District Officer application and download it to get started.
Okay, so these are the percentages for the election. Same thing as state office, just a little minor change. But as follows: a written application, which is 10%, which assesses the student's ability to meet deadlines. And the written test, questions that will cover the Skills Leadership Handbook, Robert's Rules of Order, and just general knowledge about SkillsUSA, and which was my favorite part, which was the interview. You will be asked a series of 2 or 3 questions from alumni and previous members, and they might relate back to Leadership Handbook, and be sure to bring a resume with you. And then the last part is the House of Delegates vote, which is 30%, which will be a 1 to 2 minute speech for each candidate. So just a quick recall: 10% for the written application, 30% for the written test, 30% for the oral interview, and 30% for the House of Delegates vote.
Okay, so now onto your knowledge test. This is the first task aside from the application in your journey to becoming an officer. So you will have to complete a timed SkillsUSA knowledge test surrounding information inside of the SkillsUSA Leadership Handbook and the SkillsUSA framework. So make sure to study hard. If you don't do good on this test, then there is a chance you won't be selected to move on. A study tip that I have is to write everything down once or twice to make sure you have it memorized. Your test will be most likely competed before you arrive to your district competition through Schoology. Don't worry about that. Once you submit your application, a Schoology link should be sent to either yourself or your advisor.
After the knowledge test, it will be the interview stage, which was my favorite spot. So you will participate in a short interview by alumni or officers or previous members, as well as it will be a series of 2 or 3 questions that you will have to answer regarding anything from the Leadership Handbook or anything SkillsUSA knowledge-wise. And make sure you are well-groomed and you have your reds, your leadership attire on. Make sure to bring a resume and make sure it's up to date so that you can be a very presentable candidate and as strong as you can.
Some tips for the interview: you can always ask your friends to interview you or your advisor. I'm sure they'd be willing to if it's something you're really, if running for office is something you really want to do. Some questions you might get asked: tell me a little bit about yourself. Why are you running? What is your biggest weakness? So just make sure that you know yourself and you're prepared to answer these questions. Some questions will put you in a vulnerable position, but it's just to see how you manage that. So don't be scared. When I was running for office, I was told it's just like a get to know you session. They just want to know who you are.
All right. After the interview, it will be your 1 to 2 minute speech, which be displayed at your district competition at the local level. And what to speak about, this part is entirely up to you. You can speak about your personal experience, how you discovered SkillsUSA, what is your SkillsUSA story, why you deserve to be a candidate, and make it about you, make it special, make it diverse so that you can have a special.
Okay, so besides running for office, SkillsUSA provides a prestigious award specifically for advisors. The SkillsUSA Advisor of the Year Award honors SkillsUSA's most dedicated career and technical education instructors. If you have an advisor that you think would make an amazing nominee, or if you're an advisor yourself and would like to nominate a peer, then go for it. This is an amazing way to showcase not only the good work you do in your chapters, but the amazing strides advisors take for their students. So if you're interested, please go to skillsusatexas.org/districts and click on your designated district. From there, you would want to scroll down and click on the 2022 Advisor of the Year Texas application. So you will need to complete the application and submit it 1 week prior to your district competition directly to your district director. The winner selected from district competition will be requested to attend the SkillsUSA Texas Leadership and Skills Conference. And then from there, the Advisor of the Year will be selected to move on to regional selections. So once you become Advisor of the Year for your state, you will move on to regional selections to become a Regional Advisor of the Year.
Now, they always say a picture is worth more than 1,000 words, and here is your current state officer team during summer leadership. Now, I know for a fact that you can ask any of the current state officers or any of the past state officers and what running for office is like, and they'll say that it's an amazing experience. You will definitely grow as an individual, and you will grow out of your comfort zone in ways that you can't even imagine. Do any of you guys have any questions for us? I know it was a lot of information that was just thrown at you. So feel free to ask any questions, whether it be for state or district. And I know some of you guys might not have any questions because we asked them earlier. So if you don't have any questions right now, or if you have any questions earlier, you can always contact us on Instagram. We have our handles. We had our handles towards the beginning of this, or you can reach out to your advisors. I'm sure they would be willing to help you throughout this process.
We did have a question. Shocker asked, what will you do as a state officer?
Shocker? Sorry, am I saying your name right? So currently as a state officer, you will go to summer leadership training, and there you will have your SMART goals that you will create. One of our SMART goals for our state officer team was to reach out to the members, which is why we wanted to host this webinar. While we were also, we were getting to meet you all, but we were also pushing for running for office because of COVID. We have some vacancies in the districts. Some districts don't even have officers. And a huge part of SkillsUSA is the leadership portion. So our goal, our team goal, was to have more member outreach while also increasing participation and help boost up people that were running for office. So that changes from person to person and team to team. The answer to that question. Great question, though.
You also help host Legislative Day, which will be coming up in February at Austin, and help run the ceremonies for state conference in Corpus Christi.
Also, as state officer, you guys will, or if you are like state office, then you will go to the National Leadership Training Institute, or Washington Leadership Training Institute in Washington, D.C., and that is in September. And it was honestly one of the best experiences I've had as state officer. And that's one other thing that we do.
And if you download the state officer application, it will have a guideline on what you are required to do. So if you are deciding to run, if you want to run for state office, please download the application and get started. It goes into more depth than what we have provided you all today.
Is there any more questions for anyone?
I don't think so. Well, if there are no more questions, thank you all so much for coming. We can't wait to see what you all accomplish. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us via Instagram, or feel free to ask your advisors. Thank you all and have a very good night.